The smell hits you before the automatic door finishes opening. Not bad. Not the smell you expected. Something closer to green tea and floor wax, and a very specific kind of warmth that lives only in buildings where people have been sitting in the same chairs for years. You stand in the entrance of Sakura N Care Home in Nerima Ward, Tokyo, on a Tuesday morning in October, with your suitcase still in your left hand, because they told you the locker room was on the second floor, and you haven't found it yet. The floor is spotless. The ceiling lights are white and even. A television in the common room to your left is playing a cooking show at a volume nobody is watching it at. You are 26 years old. You are from the Philippines. You passed the JLPTN3 certification 14 months ago, and the Japanese government's care worker qualifying examination 8 months after that. You know enough Japanese to follow instructions, read a medication chart, and apologize. You are less certain about everything else. Your supervisor, Nakamura-san, finds you in the entrance before you find the locker room. She is 53, compact, efficient in the way that people are efficient, when they have been managing other people's emergencies for decades. She does not shake your hand. She bows. You bow. The angle of your bow is slightly too deep for a first introduction between equals, and not deep enough to convey the hierarchy she is about to explain, which she does in Japanese that moves faster than your study app prepared you for. You catch maybe 60% of it. The care home has 38 residents. Most are between 78 and 92 years old. The care staff is 8 people, including you. Your shift is 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, Monday through Saturday. You will be the only foreign care worker in the building. You nod. You say hi. You follow Nakamura-san down the hallway, and your shoes squeak on the linoleum, and you think about how sound travels differently in a place where sound is being managed. The first week is the hardest, in the specific way that first weeks are hard in a new country. Nothing is dramatically wrong. Everything is slightly off. The wrong degree of wrongness. The kind you can't complain about because there is nothing to point to. Ishida-san in room 3 tells you a story about his son. You catch the word son, the word Tokyo. The word doesn't come. You nod. He looks at you the way people look at you, when they know you understood the words, but not the weight behind them. Your spoken Japanese is cleaner than your comprehension. You sound better than you understand. This is a specific kind of problem because it makes people think the conversation is going well, until it very clearly is not. By Friday, you have made 4 medication documentation errors. None of them dangerous, all of them flagged. Nakamura-san reviews them with you at the end of shift. Her face does not express disappointment. It expresses the controlled neutrality of someone who expected this and built it into the schedule. She says, "Memorize the difference this weekend." You do. You sit in your room in the company apartment, 17 minutes from the care home, and you write the kanji 43 times each until your hand cramps. And the difference is a physical memory in your fingers, and not just something you know. Room 7 is at the end of the east corridor. The door is always open 12 centimeters. Not all the way. Not closed. Exactly 12 centimeters, as though the angle was decided once and held to as a principle. The resident is Ueno Hana, 84 years old, former calligraphy teacher, retired from a girls' high school in Shinjuku in 2003. Her file says she was admitted 18 months ago following a fall that resulted in a hairline fracture in her right hip. The fracture healed. She did not go home. She is small. She sits very straight in a chair beside the desk. Not the chair provided by the facility, but one she brought herself, low-backed, with a cushion covered in dark blue fabric with a white wave pattern. She does not use it for comfort. She uses it the way you use the right instrument for a specific task. She does not speak to you the first week. With the other residents, the silence has the texture of unfamiliarity. With Ueno-san, it has weight. It is not the silence of assessment. It is the silence of someone who has already decided the terms on which she will engage with the world, and is checking whether you fit them. On the 8th day, she speaks. You are changing the water in the small vase on her desk. White chrysanthemums. Requested every Monday and Friday. Ordered from a florist 2 streets away. You unwrap them, trim the stems at an angle, place them in the vase. She says one word. Not to you, not to the flowers, to the air between you. The word is kirei. Beautiful. You say, "Hi. Kirei desu ne." She looks at you. Not the kind of look that precedes a conversation, the kind that takes a measurement. Then she goes back to holding a calligraphy brush over a sheet of white paper, without making any marks. just holding, like the decision about where to put the first stroke has not been finalized. By week 3, you have a routine. 6:55, arrive. 7:10, morning medication round. You read every chart twice before you touch anything. 7:40, breakfast service. 8:30, room checks. You knock before entering every room, even if the door is open, because after 3 weeks, you understand why. These are not just rooms. They are the last private territories these people have. On the 4th Tuesday, you arrive at room 7, and there is something new on the corner of her desk. A folded piece of paper, the size of a business card, placed parallel to the edge. You almost miss it because it is white on white. You open it. Inside, in ink that is still slightly wet, is a single kanji. You bring your phone out in the hallway. You draw the character with your finger. The result: daitsu, matsu, to wait. You think, she is teaching me Japanese. It is the available explanation. A retired calligraphy teacher. A foreign nurse who needs to improve her kanji. It makes sense. You fold the paper and put it in your uniform pocket. The next morning, there is another one. Shiomu. Yasumu. To rest. The morning after, teku, kiku. To listen carefully. Not just to hear. To listen as an act of attention. You start keeping them in a small zip pocket inside your bag. By the end of week 4, there are 9 pieces of paper. You write them in your study notebook at night. Your medication documentation improves. Nakamura-san stops circling errors in the same color red. There is a Wednesday pattern you notice slowly. Every Wednesday, Ueno-san does not finish her breakfast. It is documented in her file as irregular appetite. You pull the previous month's meal logs. Wednesdays. It is always Wednesdays. She eats roughly 60% of her Wednesday breakfast. By dinner, she has usually recovered. But the tray comes back, with the rice bowl half full and the miso barely touched. You mention it to Nakamura-san. She says, "It's been that way for a while." She turns back to the schedule board. You let it sit. You do not know enough yet to push. She is working on a calligraphy scroll, long and horizontal, laid flat on her desk. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes after lunch. You can see the progress on room check days. A character that was not there the day before. Then another. You ask once, "What are you writing?" She says, "A letter." You ask, "To who?" She says, "To no one in particular." Then she looks at the chrysanthemums. You don't ask again. The paper on the 8th Wednesday says, "Senbu, erabu," to choose. You write it 7 times that night. You think about how it is different from the others. The first ones felt like vocabulary, like a teacher building your foundation. But choose is not a word a calligraphy teacher gives a student to practice basic strokes. Choose is a word with an argument inside it. There are now 22 pieces of paper. Month 2. You know which residents need the railing on the left side and which on the right. You know the television needs volume 22 for the afternoon crowd. You know that Ueno-san sits with her back to the window. Her window faces east, toward the elevated tracks of the Seibu-Ikebukuro line. In the morning, the light would be in her face if she sat facing it. So she faces the wall. This makes sense. Except she does not face the window in the afternoon, when the light has moved and there is no glare. Not in the evening either. She always sits with her back to it. You fold this detail and put it somewhere you don't examine yet. A family member visits on a Wednesday in week 9. Nakamura-san mentions it without emphasis in the morning briefing. Ueno Hana's son, from Musashino. He has not visited in approximately 7 months. You see him in the corridor. Around 55. A good jacket he has not taken off, despite being indoors for 30 minutes. He stays for 40 minutes. You pass the door twice. First time, there is low talking. Second time, there is silence. He leaves at 3:47. He walks to the elevator, with his hands in his jacket pockets and his shoulders in a shape that has a name, but you don't know it yet. That evening, Ueno-san does not come to the common room for dinner. You bring her tray to room 7. The calligraphy scroll is rolled up and placed in the corner. You set the tray down. You say, "Oishiku meshiagate kudasai." Please eat well. She looks at the tray. She says, "Thank you," not in Japanese, in English. Clear, quiet, perfectly accented, in the way of someone who learned it formally and has not used it in a long time. She says, still in English, "You don't have to watch me." You say, "Of course." And you leave. The next morning, paper. On the corner of the desk. You open it, debts. Matsu. To wait. The same character as the very first one, month 3. The winter light in Nerima is thin and pale. Ueno-san goes out every Thursday at 10 in the morning, weather permitting, and sits on the bench nearest the stone lantern for exactly 20 minutes. You do not accompany her unless she asks. She does not ask. You watch from the common room window sometimes. Once you see her take something from her cardigan pocket, hold it for a moment, and put it back. You are too far away to see what it is. You ask Nakamura-san about the sun. You frame it as a care question. Ueno-san's appetite drops on Wednesdays. Is there a pattern with family visits? Nakamura-san is quiet for a moment. Then, his visits have been infrequent since about 2 years ago, when Ueno-san requested we inform her family that she preferred not to receive regular visits. You say, "She requested this?" "Yes." "In her file." "In writing." You pull the file. The request is there. 2 years and 3 months ago. Formal, handwritten in calligraphy. Not the care home standard form, but Ueno-san's own paper, her own ink. The handwriting is the same as the characters on your 22 small papers. The letter says, in Japanese you read slowly with a dictionary on your phone. I am asking that my family be informed, that I will contact them if I wish to receive visits. I do not wish to receive scheduled visits. I understand this is unusual. I am asking it anyway. It is signed, Ueno Hana, with a personal seal pressed in red ink beside her name. You sit with this for a long time. The Wednesday after that, you pay close attention. Ueno-san eats 40% of her breakfast. No visit scheduled. No visit received. But at 9:47, walking past room 7, through the 12-centimeter gap you see her sitting at her desk. Still, hands in her lap, brush on its rest. The window behind her showing the pale winter sky and the elevated tracks. And, on those tracks, a train moving east, toward Musashino. She is not watching it. She is facing the wall, but her hands are very still in the way that hands are still, when the rest of the body is doing the listening. One Thursday afternoon in December, she is in the garden, and you bring her hot barley tea. The temperature is 5.5 degrees. The rule says outdoor time ends at 4 degrees. The rule does not technically apply. You bring the tea anyway. She takes it. She holds it with both hands. She says in Japanese, slowly, "You have been here 3 months. You say, "Yes, almost." She says, "Do you understand why I give you the papers?" You say, "To help me learn." She is quiet. A train passes on the elevated tracks in the distance. You watch it. She does not. She says, "That is part of it." You wait. The steam from the barley tea rises between you and then disappears. She says, "I spent 15 years teaching people to put correct shapes on paper." Then she says, "I spent the last 5 years trying to explain that the shape is not the point." She says, "The characters I give you are not a curriculum. They are a record." You say, "A record of what?" She says, "Of what it is to finish something on your own terms." The garden is quiet. Inside, a television is playing the cooking show, at volume 22. Out here, there is only the cold and the distant trains. She says, "Go inside. It's cold." You go inside. The last Wednesday of December. You arrive at 7. The corridor lights are at 70%. Everything is the color of a morning that hasn't fully committed to being day yet. You do the medication round. Room 1, room 2, room 3. You pour tea. You say, "Good morning" in Japanese, because good morning in Japanese has a specific gravity that English does not carry in this building. You knock on room 7 at 7:15. No answer. You knock again. Softer. The way you knock when you are not sure what you are asking. Nothing. You open the door. The room is the same as every morning. The desk is clear. The scroll is rolled in the corner. The chair with the dark blue cushion is positioned as always. The window is pale with winter light. Ueno-san is in her bed. On her back. Her hands are folded on top of the blanket, one over the other, in a way that looks arranged. Not disturbed? Arranged? You check her pulse the way you were trained to. You already know what you will find. You find it anyway. You note the time. 7:17. You go to the nursing station. Nakamura-san comes. She makes the calls. The doctor. The family. The necessary offices. She moves through this with the controlled efficiency of someone who has done it before, and knows that efficiency is the most respectful thing she can offer. You go back to the room. On the corner of the desk, in the position where the papers always were, is one more piece of paper, folded to the same size as the others, placed parallel to the edge of the desk. You open it. A single character. You don't need your phone. You know this one. Tsuliru. Tareru. To be enough. To have enough. To be sufficient. Complete. Needing nothing more. You fold the paper. You put it in the zip pocket of your bag. With the others. There are now 31 pieces of paper. The son arrives at 11:43. He stands in the corridor outside room 7 for a long time. He has been told the facts. The time. The manner. The fact that she passed peacefully. He stands with this information and does not appear to know what to do with it. You pass him twice on your rounds. The second time he looks at you and says, "Were you with her?" At the end, you say, "I found her in the morning. She had passed in the night. I don't think she was in pain." He says, "Did she say anything about me?" You think about the garden bench and the train tracks, and the letter in the file written 2 years and 3 months ago in ink she chose herself. You say, "She was a private person." He nods. He looks at the floor. He says, "Yes, she was." He goes into the room. You don't follow. That evening, after your shift, you sit in the common room. The television is off. The lights are at the low evening setting. You take the zip pocket out of your bag. You lay the 31 papers out on the low table. Same size, same paper, same ink. You unfold each one. Daitsu. To wait. Siomu. To rest. Tuku. To listen. Sienbu. To choose. And the others. 31 characters. 31 mornings. 31 times she folded a piece of paper, placed it at the corner of her desk, and waited. 12 centimeters of open door. For you to come in and take it. You are not sure if the order means something. You are not sure of many things. You are sure she sat with her back to the window for 2 years, so she would not have to see the direction the trains came from. You are sure she was a woman who spent her life believing the shape was not the point. You are not sure whether what she did was the right thing. Whether a person has the right to decide that being visited out of guilt is worse than not being visited at all. Whether the son standing in that corridor, his shoulders in that shape. You know its name now. It is grief without a target. Whether he deserved what he was given, or whether what he was given was a mercy in a form he couldn't recognize. You are not sure whether Tariru, to be enough, was what she felt when she wrote it, or what she was asking the world to believe about her, or what she had decided to believe about herself. You hold the last paper for a while. The room is quiet. Outside, on the Seibu line, a train is moving through Nerima in the dark, heading east. You fold the paper. You put it back with the others. You close the pocket. You sit there in the low light for a few more minutes. The way a person sits when they are carrying something and they are not ready to stand up yet. Then you stand up. This story is fiction. But Japan's care worker shortage is real. In 2025, Japan has over 36 million citizens, aged 65 or older, the highest proportion of elderly population in the world. The country relies increasingly on foreign care workers recruited through the EPA program and the Specified Skilled Worker Visa. They arrive knowing the language, passing the exams, learning the kanji. What the exams do not cover is everything else.